In the eyes of the secular world, reaching 80 is often seen as a major milestone in life. Many believe that after this age, a person's ability to care for themselves diminishes, necessitating reliance on others for daily living. However, Grandale, an 80-year-old wise elder, challenges this notion with her unique life philosophy. She firmly asserts that age is just a number and cannot determine whether a person can live independently. Despite her advanced years, Grandale chooses to live alone, enjoying peace and freedom. She politely declines her children's numerous invitations to move in with them to share family happiness. She laughs and says, "I'm doing quite well on my own, no need to trouble the children. Living alone in my old age is the happiest and most stable choice for me. No other way of aging compares to this freedom and independence." Grandale firmly believes that a happy old age does not depend on children but should be controlled by oneself. She enjoys the tranquility of living alone, moving at her own pace without catering to others' habits and expectations. This persistence not only affirms her self-ability but also defends life's dignity. She vows to maintain this independent living until her last moment because, in her view, being able to control her own life is the greatest happiness and satisfaction. Grandale says, "Look at me. I'm 80 years old, but my ears are still as sharp as when I was young, my eyes are still bright, and I walk with a spring in my step. If I didn't say it myself, people would think I was just over 60. I'm full of energy." Since her husband passed away 10 years ago, her children have been more worried than ever, constantly persuading her to live with them, fearing she'd have an accident alone or fall ill without them around. But she made up her mind to live on her own. She appreciates her children's intentions but doesn't want to rotate living with them in her old age. Why? She asks. "First of all, I love freedom, enjoy living according to my wishes, and don't want to be bound by the children's living habits in their homes. There are places where I can't move or touch. I can't stand that kind of restriction. Moreover, she doesn't want to become a burden to her children, who have their own lives to live. Her moving in, even if they don't say it, would inevitably disturb their peaceful life, especially their spouses, who might not be happy to have an old person in the house. I can understand that," she says. "I always think keeping some distance with children is like that bowl of soup, too close, it burns the mouth, too far, it cools the heart. Living together, different habits and ideas will inevitably cause friction and hurt harmony, something I don't want to see. So, after thinking it over, I decided living alone is the most comfortable." Grandale also dismisses the idea of going to a nursing home, finding their rules too restrictive for her carefree nature. Hiring a caretaker is not an option due to the cost. Her pension is for herself, not for outsiders. Her children have their own pressures, she doesn't want to add to their burdens. "So I decided to rely on myself for old age," she says. As long as my body is strong and I can take care of myself, I can happily live in my little nest until old age. Life is most comfortable when lived by oneself." To keep her body strong, Grandale has put in a lot of effort and research. She teamed up with like-minded friends to visit famous longevity villages to see how centenarians live their lives. "What I found was amazing," she says. "These elderly people, regardless of age, have one thing in common: they can't sit still. They're either busy in the fields or tidying up at home, always moving. They don't think they should wait for others to serve them just because they're old. They never let others do what they can do themselves. This spirit of independence and self-reliance is truly admirable." Looking closely at these healthy and long-lived elders, she notes their determined, cheerful, and optimistic personalities. Even if life isn't wealthy, they make every day fulfilling and enjoyable, eating well, sleeping well, and being in a good mood. This is their secret to longevity. Having found these commonalities, I have a rough idea of my future life," she says. "I used to be someone who would get stuck on minor details, letting small things upset me for days. But now it's different. I learned from those long-lived elders, staying cheerful every day, and naturally my body follows suit." Grandale observes that many of her peers who aren't as healthy live irregular lives, never eating or sleeping on time, rarely exercising, and such poor habits have deteriorated their health by 70 or 80. They've completely lost their ability to live independently. "I don't want to end up like them, needing others' help to live," she says. "To me, not being able to live according to my will is a very scary thing. I always believe the body is a use it or lose it situation. If a person doesn't exercise for long, their body will gradually lose vitality, thus losing health. So for many years, regardless of the cold or heat, I've always kept up with exercise. Even in wind and rain, I still go out, move around, and see the outside world. I would never let myself lie at home, wasting my health. Not only do I exercise every day, but I also often travel in groups on trips. I often encounter difficult paths and steep hills. Every time I face such situations, even if others want to help, I insist on doing it myself. In my view, once I accept others' help, I'll start to slack off, never again strictly demanding myself to live a disciplined life. Then I'd be close to losing my abilities. My goal is to stay healthy and live well to old age. I'm never afraid of death, I only fear losing my ability to care for myself. I hope to pass away without illness. If I could leave in my sleep, I'd consider my life complete. Many people think that an 80-year-old living alone without anyone to care for them must have a miserable life. But what they don't know is that if an elderly person can live alone, it's actually a great happiness. In old age, health is everything. An elderly person with a healthy body can enjoy a happy and peaceful old age. Health is especially significant for the elderly. Living without illness and pain makes an elderly person the happiest. Don't you all agree with what I say? Grandma Lu asks. I'm in good health and my outlook is very optimistic. My happiness index in old age is very high, and living alone hasn't lowered my quality of life. The reason I've been able to live alone for 20 years so happily is due to these 3 points. First, when a person gets old, they should live a little selfishly. Children have their own blessings, don't be a beast of burden for them. When my husband was alive, our combined pensions were 7,000 or 8,000 yuan a month. My husband was very good at managing life, keeping our home in perfect order. Without lowering our quality of life, we still managed to give our son and daughter-in-law 2,000 yuan a month. When my son and daughter-in-law got married, they bought a large house of over 100 square meters with a monthly mortgage of over 6,000 yuan. Though the young couple's monthly income exceeded 10,000, they had to raise a child and cover various living expenses, so they had significant financial pressure. My husband felt for them, so every month, he voluntarily gave them 2,000 yuan to ease their burden. After my husband passed away, I straightforwardly told my son and daughter-in-law that without my husband, our household had one less income, so I couldn't continue giving them 2,000 yuan each month. My son and daughter-in-law were very understanding. They comforted me, saying they didn't need my support anymore, that I should just live my life well and tell them if I had any difficulties. From then on, I never gave them another penny. When I had the ability, it was fine to help them, but since I can't now, I can't pretend to be rich. That would harm both myself and others. In my view, if an elderly person can't help their children, then not adding to their burdens is the best thing. If I continued to give my son 2,000 yuan a month, my living standard would surely be affected. My money is limited, and if I kept giving, I'd have to save for my own expenses, which would affect my nutrition and health. If my health deteriorated, my son wouldn't be able to work well to take care of me. Wouldn't that be harming him? So I firmly believe that taking care of my health and not adding burdens to my children is the correct choice for elderly people. After careful consideration, I divided my 4,500 yuan pension into 3 parts, one for daily food and expenses, one for various living expenses, and one for savings. With this arrangement, I live comfortably, have peace of mind, and can avoid worrying my children, as they know I can manage my own life well. I believe whether old or young, they should have a clear sense of boundaries and keep a little selfishness. If elderly people don't think for themselves, they can only live with pain. Second, don't interfere too much in your children's lives. Many elderly people don't understand this. They see their children struggling, so they think of ways to help them, living frugally.